And good evening, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I am your host, as always, Tony DeFio, and I thank you for joining me on this lovely, crisp and cool fall evening in Pittsburgh. And as I always say, I hope it's nice and pleasant wherever you are in Steeler Nation, whether you're listening or watching live or listening on another day or time after the fact. And before I continue, I would please ask you to like and subscribe to our Behind Steel Curtain YouTube channel. We bring you live shows each and every day and night, including this show. We have the Steelers preview that aired on Thursday night with Jeff Hartman, Dave Schofield, Brian Anthony Davis. Touchdown Under, which streamed earlier on Friday with Matty Peverall and Mark Davidson. We have Steelers post-game stuff after each and every game. If it's a normal time like this Sunday at 1 o'clock, it'll be Jeff, Dave, and Brian. If it's a primetime game, you'll catch Kyle Christ and his crew on the West Coast live. We have the Scobro Show with Dave Schofield and Rich Schofield on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we have Know Your Enemy with Jeffrey Benedict and Shannon White. On Monday nights, we have The Hangover with yours truly, Brian and Shannon. We have We Run the North with Kevin Tate and his crew. They discuss all things AFC North related. We have State of the Steelers, which I believe is a live show. But you can catch that every week, regardless. And, of course, you can catch all those shows after the fact on any audio platform. Anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Behind Steel Curtains podcasting family. And, by the way, you can catch all those live shows on Facebook as well as they're happening, which if you're on Facebook right now watching me, hello. And, of course, we have a whole host of audio-only shows that you can catch each and every week, including Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman. We have the Stat Geek with Dave Schofield. We have the War Room with Matty Peverall. We have, the Steelers Fix with Jeremy Betts and Andrew Wilbar. We have, did I say From the Cutting Room Floor with Jeffrey? We have that one. We have, what else? What am I missing? I'm missing one of them. Bad Language with Brian. So you can catch all those on any audio platform of your choosing. And, of course, check out Behind the Steel Curtain, the website. We bring you news, commentary, film breakdown. It's your one-stop shop for all your Steelers needs. And we bring you so much content each and every day. And you can't skip a day without checking out Behind the Steel Curtain. And let's check out the live chat. We have Jared Devil, Drake Johnson, who joined us from Facebook. And Jared Devil's the first one in tonight, by the way. He finally gets a victory on Friday night. George Teston, who says, hey Tony. Stacy Lynn, I haven't seen Stacy in a while. She says hello. Kathy Ford. Lon Campbell. So, I'm so glad to see you guys with me tonight. Have you guys on board. Let's have ourselves a good... Kyle Christ is here. Kyle Christ. Of course, the legendary stand-up comic from the West Coast who hosts, oh my gosh, What Yin's Talking About. How could I forget that one? That's the audio only. I'm glad he showed up. My memory, Swiss cheese tonight. But you can catch his great show each and every week. Him and I'm not even going to say the name. I can't remember the name of his co-host. But gosh golly, Kyle Christ is on there. So he's here with us tonight. And he's always bringing us great content on the audio side and on the editorial side. So check out Kyle, check out the rest of the crew. And I'm glad you all are with me tonight. Let's talk Steelers. Of course, they dropped 1-3 thanks to a really kind of depressing 24-20 loss to the Jets last Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. The game started out as every other game has for the Steelers this year, at least on offense, meaning they did very little over the first 30 minutes with Mitch Trubisky as the quarterback. mean, there were a few promising moments in that first half, namely the what would have been a 25-yard touchdown strike from Trubisky to Deontay Johnson in the back of the end zone. I thought it was Trubisky's best pass as a Steeler, but it's a game of inches, and Johnson's left toe just barely grazed the out of bounds marker, and they called it incomplete. Pittsburgh had to settle for a field goal, and they had to settle for another one at the end of the first half. After it was really a gift. Trubisky heaved a Hail Mary pass into the end zone with no time left, and he was I forget who it was, it Carl Lawson, somebody, I forget. I should have did more homework, but anyway, a Jets defender hit him late after he let go of the pass. Why? I don't know. It was a silly move, a silly mistake by the Jets in that situation. And Chris Boswell ended the half with a untimed 59-yard field goal, the longest in Acrisure Stadium history, Acrisure/Heinz Field history, and it tied the longest in Chris Boswell's career. And it was your typical first half. It was boring, sloppy, mistake-filled. Again, nothing much from the offense. I thought the defense played a good first half. I think they saved the. They kept the Steelers in the game, especially at the end of the first half when Cam Sutton intercepted a Zach Wilson pass when it looked like the Jets were going to extend the 10-3 lead to either 13-3 or more, 20-3, and that kind of set up the finish of the first half and the field goal by Boswell. So I thought it was a good half by the defense. And then, shocking to us all, Kenny Pickett came on in the second half to start the Steelers' first possession at quarterback of the second half, and I was shocked. And it seemed to energize the Acrisure Stadium crowd. Everybody was sitting on their hands over the first 30 minutes, and who could blame them? Again, it was a pretty pitiful offensive performance by Trubisky and company over the first two periods. But when Pickett came in, people went nuts. Acrisure Stadium came alive. It seemed like the offense rallied around Pickett. And after he threw an interception, which, it's debatable as to whose fault it was. It was either him or Chase Claypool. Since we all love Pickett right now, and he's the golden boy, of course, most people are blaming Claypool, but it was an underthrown ball. There's no question. And Pickett did throw in double coverage. But yes, Claypool could have made a better play on the ball. Either way, it was an interception, but the Steelers answered right back with a Minkah Fitzpatrick interception off a tip pass, and he took it down to the Jets 4. And a few plays later, Pickett took it in himself. A great second and third effort for a touchdown to give the Steelers a lead. And on the Steelers' ensuing offensive drive, Pickett ultimately scored on a quarterback keeper again to make it 20-10 early in the third or fourth quarter, and it looked like it was going to be just a great day of celebration for the folks at Acrisure Stadium, the Steelers fans watching on TV. It was going to be a wonderful beginning to a new chapter, an important new chapter in team history. But instead of closing things out right then and there, the defense that had been so good through the first three quarters, I mean, it really was good. I thought it was its best performance up to that point without TJ Watt. Again, they were lacking in sacks on the quarterback, but they did put a lot of pressure on Wilson. They only got to him one time. Still, though, all in all, it was a good first three quarters, and then suddenly, the defense just collapsed. There's no other way to say it. They kind of just let the Jets march down the field to answer that touchdown drive with a 11-play, 81-yard touchdown drive of their own. Wilson looked magnificent on that drive, both through the air and with his legs, and he found Corey Davis to make it 20-17. But the Steelers had something promising going on the ensuing drive, especially after Pickett found George Pickens on just a beautiful 26-yard back shoulder catch and a throw and catch from down to the Pittsburgh or to the Jets 31, and it looked like they had everything lined up for no worse than a field goal try. But on the very next play, there was a communication problem between Pickett and Jalen Warren on a long pitch out, and it was fumbled, and Warren recovered it, but they lost 5 yards. And on the very next play, Pickett threw an ill-advised pass under pressure, trying to find Pat Freiermuth on the sideline, and it went off of Freiermuth's hands. It would have been just a great catch by him. It was really out of his reach, and he tipped it, and the Jets intercepted with less than 4 minutes to go. But it is worth noting that they were at their own 34 at that time, or 36, I should say. So they still had 64 yards of real estate to navigate to try to score the game-winning touchdown. So, people act like that turnover happened deep in Steeler territory, but it really wasn't. The defense did not have to allow a touchdown drive at that point. They could have, at the very least, limited New York to a long field goal try, but instead, they just let Wilson just methodically drive the Jets offense down the field. And Breece Hall, the rookie running back, scored with 16 seconds left from 2 yards out. And that was all she wrote. There was one more last gasp by Pittsburgh, a Hail Mary attempt that was intercepted as time ran out, and that was it, 24-20. And to me, it was the third straight game that the Steelers could have won, but let slip away in the second half, starting with the New England game in week 2, followed by that Thursday night game again in Cleveland, and of course New York on last Sunday. And I think it was the third straight game that the defense let the team down in the final period, 3 weeks in a row. We could sit here and talk about it all day long about how the offense is fully to blame for all this, but when I blame the defense for these 3 losses, it's not like I'm absolving the offense. I think people always want to choose sides in these situations. So I've been critical of the defense this week. And people are like, oh, what about the offense? Oh, it's the offense's fault. But I'm not denying the offense's hand in what's been going on these past 3 weeks. Clearly, the offense is deficient. Certainly, it was under Mitch Trubisky for 3.5 games. But you have to open your eyes and see that this defense has let this team down, especially late in games this season. When you have supposedly a great defense, a talented defense, a high-paid defense, the highest paid in the NFL, then you should expect some more than what it's given you up to this point. And yes, TJ Watt's been out for three weeks, and that's true, and that's a big impact. And I talked about that multiple times on this show, that TJ Watt's absence was going to impact them greater than people realize. But what's the deal with playing so well up to a certain point in the game, and then situationally you just collapse? And this has been a hallmark of bad Steeler teams throughout my life. The defense just collapses at the end of games. We saw it in 2018. We saw it back in 2012. We saw it in 2009. I can go all the way down through history and name pretty good Steeler defenses that just didn't get the job done when it counted. And that made it a not so good defense in the end. So yes, the offense has been bad, but the defense has been a disappointment too. And it's not just because TJ Watt's been out, and it's not just because they're all tired. Jeffrey Benedict published a great informative article on Friday on Behind the Steel Curtain, talking about how maybe the biggest problem, aside from, of course, TJ Watt not being there, is that the decline of the defensive line over the past few years. It's just not as dominant as it was as recently as 2019, when you had Hayward, Alulu, and Tuitt, and I think Hargrave still here there. So I mean, it was a fantastic line back then, but Hargrave left, Alulu eventually got old. Tuitt kept dealing with his injury issues, and he ultimately retired after last season. Didn't even play last season, so he retired really after 2020 was his last year. So that unit is not the dominant force that it had been for many years. So that, just as much as Watt, may explain why they can't seem to get pressure on the quarterback on a consistent basis. And, they can't get off the field on third downs. And, they're getting gashed in the run. Not so much last week, but overall they've been a liability against the run. The defense has as a whole, and it starts with the defensive line. To further illustrate my point about this defense at the end of games, the Jets had, I think, 10 first downs through 3 quarters, and then they had 9 during those 2 touchdown drives when Pittsburgh took that 20-10 lead. That's not acceptable. If you're supposedly a good defense, if you want to be elite, then you have to close these games out. And it's 3 weeks in a row that they couldn't get it done in the second half. And you can cite exhaustion all you want, but the Steelers possessed the ball for longer than the Jets did on Sunday, and it wasn't like they had to play catch up in time of possession in the second half. The time of possession was pretty much even all throughout the game. And in fact, the Steelers went on a long touchdown drive to make it 20-10 before the Jets went on their long touchdown drive to answer that in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter. So it's not just about exhaustion. It's not just about playing more plays, more snaps than any team any defense in the NFL through 4 weeks. It's about not executing. It's about not being able to compensate for the loss of Watt. And yeah, there were other injury factors in that game. Terrell Edmonds went out late, and that certainly contributed. But overall, it's not just about the defense being tired and the defense being a victim. It's the defense being below the line, to quote Mike Tomlin, not being able to do what it needs to do. And the funny thing is, the fans are always so quick to defend the defense, but these players will tell you that themselves. What they're doing is not good enough for the kind of players they have on that side of the ball compared to what they have on offense right now. They're really, the plan that they had coming into this year, at least, before Kenny Pickett debuted, was going to be, keep games close, keep the scores as low as you possibly can in 2022, and try to win the game in the fourth quarter. Well, that plan worked once in Cincinnati in week 1, and that, let's be real, that was luck in a way, because the Bengals long snapper got injured, and that affected the Bengals kicking game. Otherwise, Pittsburgh might be 0-4 right now. So the plan, the blueprint that Mike Tomlin drew up to start the year, be conservative on offense, keep games close, win it with your defense. Well, the defense hasn't held up its end of the bargain through 4 weeks. And again, yes, it's probably because TJ Watt hasn't been in there, but that was kind of my point after the first game, why I was kind of alarmed, and why a lot of fans were a little bit alarmed and worried and doing the whole gloom and doom thing, because the margin for error, again, was razor thin with this team, and you take away their best player and you see what happens. It affects the defense, and big picture, it affects the whole team. So it was not a a great start to the year. I think a lot of people thought after that week one, after stealing a win in Cincinnati, that maybe they could these next the subsequent 3 games, they had a great shot to start out no worse than 3-1, and now they sit 1-3, and they have the toughest part of their schedule coming up, starting with the Bills this Sunday at Highmark Stadium, and that's going to be a tall order. 14-point underdogs, the largest point spread since the merger for them. So, I mean, that to me that tells you all you need to know. And that kind of segues into my next topic, and that's about Pittsburgh being in a rebuilding year. I wrote about this on Friday. Deontay Johnson made a bit of a headline on after the game by quote unquote admitting that the team is in a rebuilding year. And the media, I listen to talk radio all the time, and local talk radio especially, and they tried to make it into a big story, but it was kind of overshadowed by Kenny Pickett's debut. But they tried to make that into a story. Like, can you believe that Deontay Johnson admitted this? The Steelers never let their players say the word rebuild. I'm sure he got a tongue lashing by Mike Tomlin. I'm sure he got chewed out by Art II. So they tried to make it into a story. How could Deontay Johnson admit this? Well, I mean, he doesn't have to admit it. He didn't have to admit it. It's quite obvious. And it should be obvious to everybody out there who's watching me right now or listening to me. This is a rebuilding year for the Steelers. First of all, they lost their franchise quarterback, the face of their franchise over the last 18 years. They lost him to retirement, and he was a shell of his former self the last couple of years anyway. So you had to go out and replace him, and you replaced him with Trubisky in free agency, and then you went out and you drafted a quarterback in the first round. So, you don't do that if you think Trubisky's the guy. You draft a quarterback in the first round if you think that you need a new direction for your franchise ultimately at some point. And nothing signals new direction more than a young rookie quarterback that you picked in the first round. And I talked about this 2 weeks ago. This offense, people keep racking their brains. What's wrong with this offense? Why can't this offense get it together? What's wrong with Canada? These play calls are so unimaginative. They're so predictable. Well, let me tell you what. I could predict a lot of the plays that they were going to run in 2017, 2016, 2018, 2015, that golden era of Pittsburgh offense. And the opposing defenses rarely stop those plays. That's how good that offense was. And the offense that was here 5 years ago, starting with the offensive line, Ben at his best, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, you go down the line, that whole offense is gone. It's been replaced by players who up to this point haven't lived up. Haven't even come close to living up to the level of the standard that those players set for offense in over the last decade. So you have a whole new offense. You have a defense that's also searching for answers, despite the fact that it has better players on that side of the ball, starting with Mika Fitzpatrick and T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward. But you have a whole new secondary, or at least you have a whole new group of starting cornerbacks from just 2 years ago. When you're talking about Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson, and Mike Hilton, you have 3 new guys there. You're transitioning over to youth on the defensive line. You brought in Miles Jack to replace Joe Schobert. You're still trying to figure out what you have in Devin Bush, the guy you traded so much 3 years ago to move up to draft 10th. So I mean, you have Alex Highsmith replacing Bud Dupree, who was at the height of his powers 2 years ago. So you have yes, you have a talented defense, but still you have a defense that's been rebuilt. So this team is definitely in a rebuilding year. And if you look around at the rest of the NFL, what's going on with the truly elite teams, and you watch how they play. You watch how they play on defense. You watch how they play on offense. It's not even the Steelers up to this point, and really for quite some time, have not even been in the same ballpark as those teams. Maybe on defense at times. We saw that in week 1 in Cincinnati, how this defense can perform if everything's running perfectly, if they're running on all cylinders, if they have TJ Watt in there, but especially on offense, the things that the teams like the Chiefs and the Bills and, even the Packers and, so many offenses out there, the way they're able to move the ball, the Ravens, the Bengals, when they're hitting on all cylinders, it's not even comparable to what the Steelers have been able to do in recent times on offense. So if you're the Steelers and you're the fans of the Steelers, you better hope, as my title said in my article on Friday, you better hope this is a rebuilding year. Because if this is their idea of being a contender, then they're insane. Clearly, they're insane. If they think that what they have going on right now is any match for what they're doing in Buffalo or Kansas City or even Tampa, I can list a bunch of teams. LA, Chargers are coming on now and look like they're a team that might be a true contender with Justin Herbert. These kind of teams. The Cowboys look fantastic. The Eagles, if you think that what you're running out there every week is even close to what these true contenders are running out there, then you guys all need a reality check, because it's just not even close. So yes, it is a rebuild, and yes, it's going to take some time to figure some stuff out, and nobody should be ashamed to call it a rebuild. Nobody should be ashamed or afraid to say what's really going on here. And that's the Steelers are trying to get back to where they were, at least where they were 5 years ago when they went 13-3. And they're trying to get back to the table of the elites of the league and be put in the same conversation as the Chiefs, Bills, et cetera, et cetera. So, put it this way. Would the Steelers team of 5 years ago, even though the defense was kind of mediocre, even when Shazier was still the leader of that defense, that team from 5 years ago with Ben and AB and Bell and everybody and that awesome line, would that team playing against this same Buffalo team, would that team be 14-point underdogs, or would that team be maybe a 2 or 3 point underdog, or would it be a pick'em game, on the road at Highmark Stadium? I'm guessing it would be no worse than a 2 or 3 point point spread. And the way Steeler fans go nuts for a good Steeler team, wouldn't shock me if that 2017 team was favored to beat these Bills. So any Steeler team that's a 14-point underdog, to me, that's a team that is certainly going through a rebuilding phase. And if it's not, then wow, they have a lot of changes to make at the top if they truly think that this is the best that they have to offer. As far as competition. So that's that topic. And let's get back to some more positive stuff, and that's Kenny Pickett. Let's get back to the Kenny Pickett debut. And as critical as I've been of this team this season, I'm still a fan at heart. And when I saw him walking out onto the field to start the second half, the Steelers' first possession of the second half, I mean, the fan in me came out. I jumped up like, wow, I can't believe it. It's starting now. He's coming out now. This is great. I was over at my uncle's house, and I just jumped up and cheered. It was an exciting moment. I remember where I was when Ben Roethlisberger was drafted. I remember where I was when he made his debut against the Ravens in the middle of the game to replace an injured Tommy Maddox. And, here we are 18 years later. I remember where I was when Pittsburgh selected Kenny Pickett. And now I could say, I'll always be able to say it. I remember the exact moment when he made his debut, when I saw him wandering out onto the field with his offensive mates to start the second half. It was a great moment. And he made it an even greater moment by how he comported himself on the field, by how he conducted himself. I mean, the offense under his leadership looked competitive. Like I said on Monday on The Hangover, it looked competitive for the first time this year, truly competitive. It looked in rhythm. It looked like it could do damage to opposing defenses on a consistent basis. And of course he led them to 2 touchdowns. But, the 2 rushing touchdowns, people are like, oh, I can't believe he had 2 rushing touchdowns and not 2 passing touchdowns. But that's semantics. What I was impressed with is, some of the throws he made. The 2 back shoulder passes to Pickens, specifically that 26-yarder near the end of the game. I mean, those are big time franchise quarterback level passes that you have to make if you want to be that guy. And the play he made to Freiermuth when he stood in the pocket, he faced down a free pass rusher and found Freiermuth down the middle and set up the second touchdown. And of course, he got up talking trash to the guy. I mean, that's a big time throw, and that's the kind of poise you want to see from a rookie. I mean, that was impressive. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And you hear things throughout the week from his teammates saying how they felt energized with him in there, and how he took command of the huddle. His first NFL game, he's telling them to listen to him as he look at me, I'm calling the play. That's what I heard them talking about this week. Pay attention. I'm here. I'm calling the plays. That's leadership. That's what you want from your quarterback, whether he's a first-year guy or a 10th-year guy. That guy wants to take, you want that guy to take charge. And believe it or not, his teammates want him to take charge. They want the quarterback to take command of the huddle. That's what they want. They want to be led, down the field. They don't want to be told what, they don't want to be bossed around, but they want to be led. They want the quarterback to be their leader on the field. They want somebody to believe in on the field. They want to be able to look in that guy's eyes and know that, he believes that he can lead them to victory. That he can make them better as players, as individual players. So that's what you want. And that's, to me, looks like the kind of guy that Kenny Pickett might be. It's early. Obviously it's early, and he might wind up being a bust. You never know. But it was an exciting debut. And the point moving forward is, after Mike Tomlin named him the starter, which was not much of a surprise. I mean, once you put that guy in there, you have to keep him in there. He's your first round pick. You can't yank him in and out of the lineup on a whim from here on out, unless he's injured or unless he's playing so bad that you might totally hinder his development moving forward. He's in there, and now it's his time to grow with his guys and to grow with the team and to grow as an NFL quarterback. And to me, the most important thing that comes out of this year is, and yes, I want them to rally and get back in the hunt. And yes, they are only a game out of first place, despite being 1-3. I want them to do well. I'm a fan. I want them to have a successful year ultimately. But the most important thing is Kenny Pickett's development this year, and for them to feel better about themselves, at least at that position, by the end of the year than they did coming into the 2022 offseason. It's important that they exit this regular season knowing that Kenny Pickett is their future, believing it anyway, believing strongly with evidence to boot that he is their future at the position. Regardless of what their record it winds up being, whether it's, they somehow Yeah, 5-12. The important part is Kenny Pickett's development, because the quicker he develops, as I've said many times, that's 90% of the battle when it comes to the NFL, is finding that guy. You see all these quarterbacks out there, right? I mean, you see what you're dealing with in terms, with guys like Allen. You're going to see that big time on Sunday, and of course Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's just the AFC. So, Trevor Lawrence looks like he's becoming a star. So, I mean, there's a lot of competition out there, and a lot of these guys are young. So, if you can find your own young stud, then you can find the seat at that table, perhaps. And of course, I'm fairly confident that the Steelers, if they do find the next great quarterback, or at least the next really good quarterback, and even if it's so soon after Ben, I'm fairly confident that they're going to do whatever they can to build the team around him, So it's going to be, it's been a disappointing first 4 weeks of the season, but, this Pickett news and him sort of rejuvenating the offense on Sunday, that kind of makes me excited again to watch these last 13 games, or these next 13 games, and to see his development, how the offense grows under him. And who knows, maybe it leads to something. Maybe he sparks them to a successful final 13 games, and they go on to win 9 or 10. Who knows? But to me, that gives us something to. It was inevitable that he was going to start at some point in 2022. Provide unless Trubisky was just lights out and the offense was lights out. So now we can get to sort of watch Pickett grow as fans. So that starts this Sunday against the Bills, and it's going to be a tough task for your first NFL start if you're Kenny Pickett, to play that team. And yes, they have some injury problems. Micah Hyde is out for the year. Jordan Poyer, their other starting safety, he's going to be out for this game. Dawson Knox, their starting tight ends, out. Jamison Crowder, one of their receivers, is out. Tremaine Edmonds, they're probably their best defensive player. He's questionable. Of course, Trey White's still out dealing with an injury. But that offense, that Bills offense, is just so potent. With obviously Allen and Stephon Diggs, Devin Singletary, their running back's pretty good. They're going to be a handful. And Allen. People talk about Lamar Jackson, but Allen's almost every bit the runner as Jackson is. I mean, and plus he wants to run you over too. He likes to take off and run a lot, and he's going to be, guys like Miles Jack and Bush, and they're going to have their hands full trying to keep him contained on the ground, and that's when they're not, in pass coverage. Terrell Edmonds, he's questionable. Cam Sutton's questionable going into Sunday's game. So that's going to be a tough task. And I don't see any way that the offense or the defense can shut down the Bills offense enough to keep it a competitive game. I can kind of see it being competitive early, maybe through 2 quarters. And I can see the offense behind Pickett doing some things. But in the long run, I just get the feeling it's going to be a lot like the wild card game against the Chiefs last year. The Bills offense is just going to get rolling in the second half, or at least maybe by the end of the first half, and just keep on rolling until they've secured enough points to win in a rather comfortable. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, a fantastic story to go in there and win that game, but that's not what my mind is telling me right now. Not even my heart is telling me that at this point. So But it's going to be an exciting day though to tune in and watch that game, and to focus on Pickett and what he brings to the table as far as his we know he has moxie and swagger and confidence, but what does he bring to the table is a rookie quarterback. How far along is he in his development already? Coming into the draft, I should say, he was considered to be the most NFL ready quarterback in the draft. Well, he's played a lot. He played for many years in college. He fifth year senior. He's 24 years old. So let's see how that all that college experience and that confidence and that maturity, how that translates. Excuse me, talking too much. All right. On that, I think I'll open things up to some questions and comments to close out the show. And this is one from Davin Eugene Douglas from Facebook, who asks, I'm lagging in here, who asks, can the run game keep Kenny upright enough to win it? Well, I think that the running game's been improving. The running game's been improving. I think we saw that in Cleveland. We saw it a little bit last week with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. I think they're going to try to run. I think they should try to run, especially if they can keep it close. If they can keep the game close, if the defense can somehow manage to keep Allen and company in check in the early part of the game, I think it would be paramount to try to at least establish the run and keep going back to it. I mean, that's one way to protect your rookie quarterback. No matter how much confidence he has, you still want to try to protect him if you're Mike Tomlin. And this one is from Right Nighter 16, who says about Kenny Pickett, he struggles to throw the ball deep with accuracy, doesn't have a strong arm. Well, he has a strong enough arm to be drafted in the first round. I think we certainly saw enough evidence of that at Pitt. And this is one from Myra, Jane, and Bert, who says if they can't defend the run, they can't win, meaning the Steelers. Or, yeah, that's been a problem for them. But I don't think the Bills aren't much of a running team anyway, This one from Steelerchick 46, who asks, will Pickens or Freiermuth become Kenny's favorite target? Well, I mean, those are both good choices, it would appear. And isn't that what's so beautiful about having all these young guys in there? It's another exciting thing about starting over and rebuilding. You have this young quarterback you drafted in the first round, and you have this rookie receiver you drafted in the second round. You have this second-year tight end you drafted in the second round in 2021. I mean, they all have a chance to grow together, and you still have Claypool in there, and obviously Deontay Johnson's still young. So you have this exciting opportunity to grow as an offense, and the line is playing better than people thought it would. Shooks Okorafor is going to have his hands full going up against Von Miller on Sunday, but to repeat what others have said, he's done really well against Miller during his short career. So, will Pickens or Freiermuth be his favorites? But I'm sure he's going to try to lean on them. Again, excuse me for my cough. We heard all throughout training camp how all three of the quarterbacks that were in a competition, how they leaned heavily on Pickens, a rookie. So, he's as good a candidate as any for you to lean on if you're Kenny Pickett. And his two greatest throws, again, were to, I think, the Pickens, the one back shoulder, actually two of them, and then the pass over the middle under pressure to Freiermuth. I don't think it's much of a coincidence that they were his two best passes of the day. So, and this is one from Brian Brown, who asks, how can the Steelers adjust the secondary to keep the receivers from burning the defense across the middle, crossing routes, or killing the Steelers? That is a great question. And I don't know. I think that the best way to do that would be to hurry Josh Allen, to hurry to get pressure on whoever the quarterback is. But they haven't been able to do that this year. So that when you're playing, they've been playing more zone for whatever reason than man to man. I mean, there seemed to be a shift a few years ago to man to man. Now they seem to be back to playing more zone, if I understand things correctly. So I don't know. We saw that prior to them switching over to more of a man to man years ago, especially in the early 2010s when Dick LeBeau's defense got old and they had a harder time getting after the quarterback. The middle of the field was exposed all the time. So, unless you can get home to Josh Allen, or unless you decide to play tighter coverage, which might be harder to do if, you're going to be without Killer Witherspoon. Again, Cameron Sutton is compromised with injury. Levi Wallace has had his injury problems this year. I think they're gonna try to play more zone. They're gonna try to double Stephon Diggs, and he might be the best receiver in the NFL. So it's going to be a tough task. I think they're going to have to try to find a way to generate pressure, which I'm sure they've been trying this year, and it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. It's a great question. And this one from Michael O'Malley. Tony, did the Steelers score a TD on the opening drive? Well, if you've been following sports as much as I have, as we all have, then you know how these things tend to work out. You have your golden boy rookie quarterback starting on the road, against a very formidable foe, one of the best defenses in the NFL, by the way, in the Bills, even though they're going to be down 2 starting safeties, and maybe Edmonds in the middle. But wouldn't it be funny, if they somehow decided to, if that would be like the script right there for Pickett to lead them on a scoring an opening touchdown drive. So it wouldn't. It would shock me, but it wouldn't shock me. Hopefully that happens. That would be a great way to start that game. And this one is from Ryan Stanley, who donates $5, and I thank you, Ryan. Have a blessed show, Tony. Love you, brother. Well, thank you, Ryan. I love you too, and thank you for the $5. That's very, very, very awesome of you. And there's one from Brian Brown who says, "Blitzing Josh Allen is dangerous." Exactly. It's he's a dual threat. I mean, he's the worst kind of weapon if you're a defender. Not only does he love to run, but he can pass too. So. And this one is from Myra, Jane, and Bert. Give Robinson a helmet. He is for sure a short tackler. Well, I mean, nothing's for sure yet with Robinson. I mean, he's a rookie, but he certainly had a nice training camp. I don't know why he hasn't. I'm sure he's going to get worked into the lineup at some point this year. It tends to happen with these rookies, especially these late round picks. And this is one from Brian Brown, who says, with that said, what do the Steelers have to lose? They don't have anything to lose. That's what another exciting part. They're 1-3. Nobody's giving them a chance this week. So they might as well just, instead of being all conservative on offense, I mean, you have your young quarterback. The moment doesn't seem to be too big for him. Why not let loose a little bit? So we'll see. We'll see how Canada calls things to start the game, because we all know the first 15, 20, whatever plays are scripted. So I'm going to be very interested to see how the early stages go with Pickett in there, knowing that they had a whole week to plan with him to be the starter. Mark Tillman says you got to gamble. Yeah. I mean, a team like the Bills, you have to gamble. To think you're going to win this game 17-14, or like you did last year, 23-16, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's just no way. First of all, you don't have nearly the defense you had in week 1 of last year. When you had a healthy and apparently spry Tyson Alualu still, and of course Cam Hayward and TJ Watt was going to have, going to have the best year of his career, you don't have that kind of defense right now. So you're probably going to have to score a lot of points to win. The question is, do they have it in them to score the amount of points that they need to keep this game competitive? I guess we'll find out. And this one is from Lou Boy, who says to Knight Rider, he had 12 TDs in year 2, 13 in years 3 and 4, and then 47 in year 5. Talking about Kenny Pickett, his Pitt career. He really took off his final year at Pitt in 2021, leading the Panthers to the ACC championship game. And now he's awesome. He's dissing Kenny Pickett. He says he panicked under pressure every year in college, and he panicked when he threw the interception to Muth. Well, he didn't throw it to Muth. He threw it past to Muth, and meaning Pat Fryermuth, and it went off his hands. And he didn't panic a whole lot last year in college. As far as the pass to Fryermuth, I mean, people say he panicked, but that was at least it was an accurate pass anyway. It's not like he threw it into triple coverage over the middle of the field. He was trying to make a play, and it was a rookie mistake. I'm not sure if he panicked. I mean, panic's a strong word to use there. He might have been hurried, trying to make a play in the face of pressure, but panic. I mean, if he was prone to panic, why didn't he panic earlier in the game when he threw that strike to Fryermuth over the middle when the linebacker was coming free? I mean, that's an easy thing to say in that after the fact. And this one from Myra Burton Jane, who says, I'm optimistic about Sunday, any given Sunday. Well, it has been a crazy year in the NFL. If you I didn't see the Colts beating the Chiefs a few weeks ago, and that happened. So you never know. I mean, of course, the common denominator in a lot of these crazy games has been the Colts. Of course, that was to their benefit. Of course, usually it's them getting defeated by underdogs. But one more thing I'll say about Kenny Pickett and Pittsburgh's decision to go with him in the first round this year, and all the clamoring throughout the offseason about bringing in a veteran, a big time veteran like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, etc. Well, you see how much Wilson has struggled. I mean, that offense in Denver looks terrible. Even Rodgers doesn't look like the guy that he was. I mean, he looks pretty good, but does he look like he's a $50 million a year quarterback? I don't know. Of course, Matt Ryan is totally shot in Indy. It looks like he's totally washed up. So I think, I was always an advocate for bringing in a guy after Ben retired, drafting a guy in the first round, if there was a guy available who warranted a first round pick, and putting him in there as quickly as possible and letting him take his lumps his rookie year, letting him develop and grow. It took them 3.5 weeks because they decided to sign Trubisky early in the year. And I get that. I get why they did that. I mean, it was the beginning of free agency. They had just lost their face of their franchise. They were drafting 20th. And what were the odds that every quarterback would be available to them at 20? So they went out and they drafted Trubisky to be like an insurance policy, I think, for 2022. But then when Pickett was there at 20, you had to draft him. You had to, and it was just a matter of time before he went in there. So I would always prefer to do it the way they're doing it right now. Whether it works out or not, I guess it remains to be seen. But I would always prefer them to bring a guy in and put him in right away, a rookie, rather than sign some 37-year-old veteran, try to, get a few more years out of him. Maybe if you're one guy away, if you're a quarterback away, like the Broncos did 10 years ago when they brought in Peyton Manning, that's a different story. But if you're trying to start over as an organization after your franchise guy retires, what are you doing? What are you doing signing a 38-year-old quarterback or trading for a guy like that? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. You want to start young. So on that note, it's getting up close to the 10 o'clock hour, and I will This show went pretty fast. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's over. But you guys were great. Keep checking back to Behind the Steel Curtain all weekend for editorial stuff and for podcasting stuff. And we're going to keep you entertained and informed up through the game on Sunday, during the game on Sunday. Check out the live chat. And, of course, after the game. Check out the post-game stuff, both in written form and in podcasting form. Till I talk to you again on Monday on The Hangover with Brian and Shannon, you have a great weekend. And as always, go Steelers. You guys have a fantastic, great weekend, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Take care, everybody.